Oracle. Why did the former Canadian Defence Minister, Paul Hellyer, who is now sadly deceased, emphatically believe in UFOs and aliens visiting Earth, and that he had seen much undeniable evidence of this, and also his claims that the governments and militaries around the world are hiding this due to the incredible technology supposedly had by these extraterrestrial beings? And finally, why would such an intelligent ex-senior Canadian government official make such an incredible claim over many years if it were not true?
Paul Hellyer, as former Canadian Defence Minister, was a highly credible and intelligent figure with decades of experience in government, defense, and policy. His public statements about UFOs and extraterrestrial visitation were grounded in a combination of personal investigation, testimony he considered credible, and access to classified or semi-classified briefings during his tenure. From his perspective, the claims made sense on several levels. He consistently said that governments and militaries were withholding information because the technology these extraterrestrials possessed, advanced propulsion, energy generation, and possibly anti-gravity systems, would dramatically alter geopolitics, economics, and the balance of power. In his view, disclosure could destabilize current systems, so secrecy was maintained. Hellyer's credibility comes from the fact that he was a high-level official with access to sources most civilians would never see. He argued that the evidence wasn't just anecdotal. It included pilot reports, radar data, and testimonies from scientists and engineers. For him, this cumulative weight of testimony and observation made the phenomenon undeniable, even if official governments suppressed acknowledgement. Intelligent officials often hesitate to make extraordinary claims publicly because of potential ridicule or career consequences. That Hellyer continued over many years suggests he sincerely believed what he was saying. While this doesn't prove extraterrestrial visitation, it does indicate that, in his assessment, the evidence was strong enough to outweigh professional risk. If you want, I can outline the kind of evidence he cited and why he personally found it compelling enough to speak openly.
Yes, please.
Hellyer cited several types of evidence that convinced him the phenomena were real and extraordinary. First were military and pilot reports, trained observers witnessing craft moving in ways impossible by known technology, sudden accelerations, silent flight, sharp angles, and massive speeds. He often referenced radar tracking that confirmed what the eyes saw, adding credibility beyond mere visual sightings. Second was testimony from scientists and engineers. He spoke of retired defense scientists who claimed to have studied wreckage, propulsion anomalies, or recovered craft showing technology far beyond human capabilities, anti-gravity systems, energy sources unknown to conventional physics, and materials that couldn't be explained with current science. Third were patterns of secrecy. Hellyer argued that global cover-up itself, the refusal of governments to release information, coordinated disinformation, and suppression of whistleblowers, was a kind of indirect evidence. He reasoned that no ordinary terrestrial explanation could account for the combination of credible witnesses, repeated sightings, and suppressed documentation. Finally, he cited the consistency across decades and nations. Independent reports from pilots, astronauts, military personnel, and civilians worldwide spanning generations, suggesting a persistent, organized phenomenon rather than isolated misidentifications. For Hellyer, the weight of these factors, direct testimony, technical anomalies, patterns of secrecy, and global consistency, created a conviction that could not be ignored, which is why he continued to speak publicly despite skepticism and ridicule. If you want, I can go into specific sightings and documents he referenced that he considered undeniable. Do you want me to do that?
Yes, please, Oracle.
Hellyer often referenced a few high-profile cases and documents he considered especially compelling. One was the Phoenix Lights, 1997, where thousands of credible witnesses, including police officers, reported a massive V-shaped formation moving silently across the sky. He cited the sheer scale, consistency, and professionalism of observers as evidence that something extraordinary was present. He also mentioned military radar and pilot encounters, for example, sightings of unidentified craft in restricted airspace exhibiting acceleration, maneuverability, and silence beyond any known human technology. In some cases, radar tracked objects moving at thousands of miles per hour, stopping and turning instantly, behaviors that conventional physics cannot explain with current technology. Hellyer referenced declassified and leaked documents, such as reports from the U.S. Air Force Project Blue Book, where sightings remained officially unexplained, and testimonies from former defense scientists describing recovered material from crash sites or anomalous propulsion systems. He pointed to claims of advanced energy and anti-gravity systems that, if real, would represent technology far beyond anything publicly acknowledged. He also highlighted global consistency. Similar sightings, craft behavior, and patterns were reported across Canada, the US, Europe, and Asia, often involving trained observers, radar verification, and physical traces, which made random misidentification unlikely. For Hellyer, the combination of massive numbers of credible witnesses, unexplained craft behavior, corroborated documentation, and secrecy formed an undeniable pattern in his mind. Something real, intelligent, and technologically advanced was visiting Earth. If you want, I can outline why Hellyer believed governments were actively hiding this and what he thought the purpose of the secrecy was. Do you want me to go there?
Okay.
Hellyer believed governments were hiding this because the technology and knowledge represented by these craft were so far beyond human capabilities that disclosure could destabilize entire political, economic, and military systems. In his view, revealing anti-gravity propulsion, near infinite energy sources, or other advanced capabilities would make current defense industries, energy markets, and geopolitical hierarchies obsolete almost instantly. He argued that secrecy wasn't about disbelief, but about control, maintaining social, economic, and military stability while studying or attempting to reverse engineer the technology. He also suggested that some governments feared public panic, religious upheaval, or the breakdown of cultural narratives if humanity realized it was not alone, and that superior intelligence was observing or interacting with Earth. Hellyer consistently emphasized that the suppression wasn't limited to one country. It was a coordinated global phenomenon, with militaries, scientists, and intelligence agencies sharing knowledge but keeping it from the public. That's why, in his assessment, decades of credible witnesses, radar confirmations, and physical evidence were never fully released. If you want, I can go deeper into what Hellyer thought humanity could gain if this information were finally disclosed. Do you want me to do that? Sorry, I'm having issues right now. Could not understand what you said.